Hey plant people, welcome. Hello, what is up? Thank you so much for stopping by to hang out with me today to talk about my favorite non-variegated houseplants that are in my collection right now. I am also going to do the flippity flop of this video, which is going to be my houseplants that are in my collection that have my favorite variegation. So this is like not necessarily my all-time favorite variegated houseplants, or like in general, like say the caramel marble, for example, like say that plant looks incredible when it has like optimal variegation. However, my caramel marble right now is like not the most highly variegated. So while the caramel marble is one of my favorite variegated houseplants, it's not my favorite variegated plant that's in my collection because, you know, sometimes the variegation just doesn't present as dramatically as some of the plants that we see online, for example. So these are going to be like specifically the plants that I have in my collection that have my best variegation at this point, if that makes sense, because there is a difference. Anyway, so we are going to be starting with my favorite non-variegated houseplants in my collection. And the very first one that I always think of is my Homelamina green emerald. And this plant is so gorgeous. If you can see this, like the way that it stands, phenomenal, beautiful. I love the structure. I love the petiole structure, the way that it shapes, like kind of flows into the leaf. It's almost like kind of like a cone shape. I don't know if you can see that. It's like not just flat. It kind of goes into this kind of like cuppy cone looking thing. And then the leaves themselves, the venation, hopefully this lighting is good enough. This venation is just like so delicate and beautiful. And I think this plant is a really great plant if you want something kind of in your space, like just like some green that looks really nice and is a little bit different from like a pothos or I don't know, something that you see, or a peace lily, like a regular peace lily that you see all the time. And this one has been super duper easy going for me. I have this growing in an extremely low light area and it is just supplemented with a very like not intense grow light. It's like one of those little like hoop grow lights that is not giving it probably near the light it needs, but it's fine. Also, I don't know if you can tell, but her leaves are very glossy and shiny and dark on the top. And then the underside is a little bit of a paler green. So you do kind of get those two different tones of the paler green of the underside and this dark glossy top. And it's just something about it. It looks amazing. The petioles also have this kind of like peachy orange tinge to them. Not overwhelming, just a little bit. And mine, as you can see, has been very happy in that low light situation because she is putting out a bunch of blooms. She's got like 3 blooms happening right now, and it's got a bunch of separate plants in here. I got this from Lowe's probably 6 to 8 months ago for $20. They do still kind of pop up there sometimes, but I haven't seen one in a hot minute. But that was originally where I got it. Okay, this next one is a tragedy, and it is a Hoya that I was just talking about in my favorites video because it had a couple of really big leaves that it put out, and I was like, oh my God, they're so big, it's so beautiful. And then it put out a couple of even more giant leaves, and of course, I just accidentally threw it on the ground and cracked the biggest leaf in half. So I did absolutely tape it, because I'm hoping that that sap will glue it back together. So hopefully that will work out, and I'm just not gonna think about it for right now. So this is my Hoya Stenakii, and this is one that I was talking about. To me, I really love because it looks like the Kaimuki, which I keep killing, and I really love that Hoya. But at the time, these were the leaves that it had originally given me. So this is another one with like really dark, glossy leaves. I feel like this lighting is not picking up. Okay, maybe that's a little bit better. But anyways, you can see this is just like a really dark Hoya. So very dark, very glossy, very hairy too. So it's got like very fuzzy leaves, which I do not think that you will really be able to tell very much on here, maybe a little bit. But absolutely gorgeous. It has these kind of like cool, ridgy, Abbey venation stuff going on that looks absolutely incredible. And she's been growing really well. Recently repot her like not too long ago, and I did just drop her and knock all of her soil out, but she is still rooted to the side here. So we will just hope for the best and hope that I didn't mess anything up too much there. But yeah, so hopefully, hopefully this leaf will somehow mend itself, and maybe like the next leaves that come out will be really big, and then when this one falls off, I won't feel quite so bad. But I'm so upset about that. Do you see how big that leaf was? Ugh, I'm such a dummy. Why did I do that? 10 out of 10 recommend this Hoya. It's been super easy, super fast grower, very dark, very beautiful, cool, veiny goodness if you're into that. You are going to see a trend today of some dark plants because I like really dark plants when they're not variegated, and that's just who I am as an individual. This is my philodendron Dark Lord. I have nearly killed this 3 times. This is my 4th time attempting to regrow it. And I got it to attach to a moss pole this time, which is a freaking miracle because it refused to attach to a moss pole prior to this attempt. And it is actually sizing up, which is absolutely incredible. So we can see our little baby leaves. These were my little cuttings that I took here at the very bottom. And this one is very similar to the Erubescens variety. So like Pink Princess, Painted Lady, White Knight, White Wizard, White Princess, that variety in the growth pattern. So it really seems the same to me when it comes to that. This may be like a mutated variety of that. I really don't know. But the stem itself, very similar. The way it climbs up a moss pole, very similar. Petioles, very similar. But the leaf shape, when it matures, it gets this very interesting leaf shape, which I'll put a photo on the screen. I don't know for sure if I will ever be able to attain this, just because I've had some people say that they have had mature plants themselves and they still were not able to get that interesting leaf shape, like Dark Lord leaf shape. But we're gonna hope, and I'm gonna do my best. It's super rooted into this pole, which is promising. And you can see here at the top, the leaves are starting to elongate a little bit. So we've got some really dark goodness. And you know, the thing with these dark plants is they really do not pick up super well on the camera. Cause I mean, it's just like, it's just a black void. But you can see it's kind of like a chocolatey, darky type situation with a red back, and the emergent leaves come out. You can kind of see more of like this blood red color. So the last couple of leaves that I've gotten much larger. They are kind of elongating and getting that shape. Lobes are not really doing anything yet. So we are going to hope that this continues though. And then this one has just come out. It's already pushing a new leaf here as well. This one is like just unfurled, so that will size up just a little bit. This is a really cool plant if you do really enjoy those really dark leaves. It has, even at the bottom, the older leaves stay this really super dark green color, and then as you go up, the new emergent leaves are like a darker, more chocolatey green color. So it still stays pretty dark even all the way down to the bottom. And she is getting pretty tall. I did just extend her moss pole, and honestly I'm probably gonna have to do it again before too long, which I'm just not here for moss poles anymore. You know, you have to be, I've got a few plants on moss poles that I'm really interested in maturing. This is one of them, but I just do not have very many moss poles left because they drive me nuts. But I'm gonna make an exception for this beauty, and we're gonna give it a couple more moss poles probably, and we'll see what happens. I may have to do like a chop and extend type deal after this next one, but we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when it comes. This is totally off topic for this video, but this is my Hoya Caudata, or Caudata Sumatra. I think it's Caudata. And I just wanted to show you she's blooming. Look at these blooms. These are the coolest blooms that I have ever seen. She's been blooming for me nonstop ever since I moved her to this area that has higher humidity. But yeah, I just wanted to show that to y'all real quick. The next plants that I'm going to talk about is not going to be any surprise to anyone because it is Anthurium. Oh my gosh, I know, big shocker there. And I'm not going to stop and talk about every single one of these Anthurium. I'm just going to say, like, as a genus, if you like more green plants rather than the variegation most of the time and you're not into Anthurium, Anthurium are incredible. If you like leaf texture, like dark leaves, cool veination, Anthurium is a genus for you. And you should not be intimidated by Anthurium. Of course, with any genus, there are going to be species that are more complicated and more fussy than other species, but there are plenty of species of Anthurium and hybrids that are super easy to take care of if you just do a little bit of research into the genus and kind of, tailor their care requirements just a little bit. They are really not that complicated in some cases. There are some cases, depending on which one you look into, some are fussy, some are fine in ambient with normal conditions. So, but I'm not going to stop and talk about every single one of the Anthurium in my collection because that would take a million years. I am planning to do an updated Anthurium collection video at some point, at which point I will be stopping and talking about every single one of them. So until then, I'm just going to show you a few of my favorites really quickly, and I'll put the name on the screen if you're interested in looking them up. Okay, that's it for the Anthuriums for now. I've got to stop myself because otherwise I'm going to show you literally every single Anthurium in my collection because I have no self-control. So we're done. We are moving on to a couple of cool philodendron. The first one is my philodendron Hediocraspidon, and this is one that I had ordered off Etsy a while ago because I could not find a different one that I'm about to show you that I was able to find at Kroger eventually. This one has kind of the same feel as the one that I had been seeking out with these long, strappy, kind of like ridgy leaves. I just thought this was so cool in a philodendron. And I also liked that while it does have kind of like the singular stem in the middle. It is more of a self-header, so the growth is a little bit more compact than like the arabescens, things like that, where they really want to climb up something and kind of sprawl out. This one is a little bit more compact. I have had a ton of issues with this getting it to root. I literally tried everything. I tried leca, I tried just water, I tried pond, I tried soil, and it did not do anything until I put it in sphagnum moss, and then it finally rooted up. And I ended up potting it up in my anthurium mix, which is part sphagnum moss, part tree fern, orchid bark, and chunky perlite. And it seems to be liking that somewhat because it is not declining. I see a couple of roots in here, and I have just like the very tiniest tip of a new leaf coming out from that yellowing sheath in the middle. So I think we're doing okay right now. But it does have these just like really cool, if you like the pendant type anthurium and things of that nature, this one just looks super cool. This has, the one that I'm about to talk about after this has more of like a rigid structure. This one's like a little more floppy and sprawly than the other one, but I do really like how this one has longer, delicate petioles and then these really cool, long, strappy leaves. So I'm not upset about having both of them because they do have a distinct flavor for each of them, although they do look pretty similar. So this is the first one. This is Heterocraspidon. It's her growth pattern. And this one is Philodendron Campii Lynette, I think. And for some reason, I could not find this anywhere. I had seen people finding them at Walmart, a ton of people finding them at Walmart, sometimes kind of like Kroger, Home Depot, big box type situation, whatever. And I finally found one at Kroger of all places. You know, whatever. I'm just happy that I was able to finally find it. And I love this one. Love it so much. Do you realize that there are ants on it? It does have a lot of extra floral nectaries, so the ants do love to sneak in and snack on those. But you can see this one's growth pattern is more rigid, so it's not as sprawly. It's a little bit more tightly compacted with larger, thicker petioles. And the leaves stand up more versus the Heterocraspidon. The petioles kind of come up and the leaves go downwards. But yeah, I just think this looks so cool sitting on a shelf or whatever. Very like jungly feeling. And you can see the leaf shape is very similar. So long leaf shape with those really cool ridges. But the growth pattern is somewhat different. And the leaves on this one are wider and more rigid as well. But both of these are super cool. Definitely like a different taste of philodendron than we're used to seeing. And I absolutely adore both of these. So if you like this plant and you have a Kroger in your area, just keep an eye out. You may be able to find it. Next up, we're moving on to a couple of Monstera. The first of which is another plant that I have found recently at Home Depot for $20. And it is a new release, and that is the Monstera Burl Marks Flame. I did not originally want this plant. Like, I did not see what the hype was. I thought it was pretty cool looking. But I have a Monstera Seriana, which I'm going to show you in a minute because that's another one of my favorite non-variegated plants or just plants in general. But when I saw it in person, I didn't realize the texture was so much different. Like the Seriana has that very Monstera deliciosa feel to the leaves. So it's kind of like that like, I don't know, thinner floppy leaf type versus the Burl Marks Flame. Very rigid. So these are very thick, leathery leaves, which I did not realize. I guess I can kind of tell now, like the way that they sit. But in person, it's just so much different than seeing photos of it online because of the leaf texture. And I love the venation. It is just absolutely gorgeous. I did mention that this really reminds me of the Anthurium Delta Force, which I think is part of the reason that I'm drawn to this. And when they start fenestrating, they get those kind of like typical lobster claw type leaves. And it's just so cool. Very ethereal, very, I don't know, like fairy garden-y to me. A little alien. Very much my vibe. And I did go ahead and repot it into a chunkier mix just because people have said that they have had a tendency to have them rot on them. Someone did mention that they got one and it did rot pretty quickly because they left it in the original mix that it came in. So I was like, okay, I definitely don't want that to happen. So I went ahead and repot it in a chunkier mix. And we seem to be doing okay. I don't see any of the immediate symptoms of root rot. So we're gonna hope for the best, and I'm just gonna keep an eye on it and kind of take action if I see anything funny happening. But yeah, so that'll be the first one, Monstera Burl Marks Flame. And the next one is one that I need to chop, but I really don't want to. I just want it to grow forever and ever, and it is my Monstera Cereana. And I've had this for quite a while. It's honestly been pretty chill. Again, I am just tired of the moss pole, so I'm not gonna be extending the moss pole anymore. I did start her on a moss pole, and I have this new situation that I'm kind of doing where I'll give them a moss pole, but you're only getting a little bit of one. You know, like we're not giving you the moss pole forever. You can have a little bit of a moss pole for some more room for your roots, so you feel like you're climbing or whatever. And then I just have a bamboo stake stuck into the top of this. But listen, y'all, it's fine. It's fine because see, she's still sizing up. This is my first truly Cereana leaf that I have gotten, and it is still new. It's very floppy and still expanding. You see the last leaf. We have definitely been sizing up here. You can see how small these are. So that in comparison to this, in comparison to that, which is the new one that just came out. And I just have her on a bamboo pole. So I do have, I mean, I have that you know, like little bit of moss pole down here. But then when the moss pole ends, I just stuck a bamboo pole in the top of that. And she's been doing just fine. So typically Monstera do fine without a moss pole anyways. I have no intention of putting that Burl Marks Flame on a moss pole. We'll see what happens, but I think it'll be just fine. This one seems to be just fine. And now that we're getting this larger growth, I don't know. I'm definitely gonna have to, if you can see here, this is how tall it is when it's sitting on the floor. So I think I'm gonna like rig another moss pole to this. I know this is an unhinged thing to do because this is literally gonna be all the way up to the top of my vaulted ceilings almost. But yeah, I think I'm gonna do it anyways and just see what happens. And eventually when it gets to the top of that, then I will chop it up and propagate the top sections. And I don't know, will I get rid of the rest of it? Will I chop up the whole thing and sell it? Will I make a second plant? I don't know. I don't have the answers to those questions today. Maybe in the future I will make a decision on that. But for now, I'm just so happy that we have this beautiful Cereana leaf. I love this one. This is like an in-between the Burl Marks Flame and the Deliciosa. It comes in, especially when it gets more mature, it comes in so close to that middle vein. So there's like almost no room between like this area in between the fenestration. But again, this is more of a Monstera Deliciosa type leaf versus the Burl Marks Flame is like a really thick, rigid, leathery type leaf. All right, y'all, I'm gonna leave you on a cool one. This is my Syngeniana leucanera, I believe is how you pronounce that. This is a really cool one. It is a caudex plant. If you can see, yep, right down in here, it grows from what looks like a little bulb that sits atop the soil. And it has these little growths that it shoots out in the summer. And they are so incredibly soft. This is the softest plant that you will ever touch. If you have ever felt lamb's ear, which is like, I'm in Georgia, it's a really common landscaping plant here, or like that people use in outdoor gardens. And it is so incredibly soft and delicate. And that is what this sounds like, feels like. So it is literally the softest, velvetiest, most incredible feeling ever. Like literally, if they made a blanket that felt like this, I just want to curl up inside of that and never leave. But it's really cool because it's this kind of like minty teal color and it's covered in this silvery fuzzy hair. So it's very interesting. It's a very interesting texture and color combination, and you can see how it's quite shiny because of that, like the covering of those little hairs. And it is just so incredibly beautiful. And this is a fun one because it dies back normally what happens is it starts looking kind of like trash when you get towards the winter. So mine gets kind of like the brown spots and it just starts looking kind of funky. And at that point, I'll just cut it off. And then you'll just have this little bulb in a pot. And this is what you'll look at for a few months. And then when it starts warming up outside and summer rolls around, it is going to sprout into this absolutely gorgeous plant. These do have also the most beautiful blooms. So they have very, very striking, fiery red blooms that they hold on to for quite a while once they do bloom. And it does have a secondary little shoot here in the pot as well. And it is just such an incredibly beautiful plant. It doesn't take up a lot of space. It's very easy care. So yeah, I would highly recommend this if you want something that's just kind of like interesting, something a little bit different to grow, especially if you like blooming plants, you like Hoya, African violets, things like that. You would probably really enjoy this, especially when those blooms pop. All right, y'all, I'm going to leave you here. I'm going to cut myself off because, again, I have no self-control and I keep walking around, and I made a list and I'm not sticking to the list completely, and I keep pulling more plants and I just literally cannot control myself. So I feel like I've talked about enough of my general favorites now. I do have like some orchids too that I would talk about, but none of them are really blooming right now. So I feel like they're not as interesting if you don't have the blooms to look at like in real life, not as much as least unless it's like a dedicated video and you're like an orchid lover and you're looking for that. So I'm not going to talk about those today. I also have some like epiphytic cactuses and stuff that are just like my staghorn ferns that I absolutely adore and are really interesting, but I don't want to get those down right now because I have another video that is going to include those in the future, the not too distant future, hopefully. So if you're interested in those, just keep an eye out. I'm going to have another video coming at you for some cool plants that I have in my collection. So if you like this video and you want to see more content like this, please like, please subscribe. It means so much to me and it helps my channel so much. And I will see y'all in the next video, which is going to be my favorite variegated houseplants in my collection. So I will see you guys then. Bye.